Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Guruddevo Maheshwarah Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. We have been discussing some shloka in Gita, 6th chapter. During meditation, what does one do? Sankalpa prabhavan kaman styaktva sarvan asheshatah. By giving up all the sankalpas, sarvan kaman, sankalpa prabhavan kaman tyaktva sarvan asheshatah. A person having given up all the desires born of what can you say, sankalpa, born of motives, born of an attachment, an inclination. See, desires born of inclinations and interests. Okay, if the desire is our own, because we are inclined to it, we are interested in it. So if we develop an interest in one thing, that interest later gets solidified as a desire, an interest, a taste for something, an interest, a taste for something develops into a full-fledged desire. Therefore, he is calling, you could have told simply desire, but giving up the desire means just forgetting the desire, taking the mind away from a desired object, or forgetting a desire for a while is easy. You can be busy, absorbed in something else. Then at that moment, the desire is not sitting in your mind, is not working in your mind. But that is not the way of giving up desires. Because tentatively you can suspend your desires. Tentatively you can forget your desirable object for a while. But that is not giving up the desire. The desire will go away only when its root goes away. The root of the desire is sankalpa. See here, the Gita, Shloka 24th in the 6th chapter, Shashtodhyaya, 24th Shloka says, Sankalpa prabhavan kaman. The desires born of certain taste, certain inclination, a certain liking for things. Because the liking, a taste springs from, a taste is a cultivated taste, either instinctive or cultivated, or means we have a samskara for it. We have a liking for it. So this liking develops when you keep on repeating the liking. What you like or what you have a taste for, the thing, if you keep repeating in your mind, the samskara gets reinforced and it develops into a desire. See, a simple liking is not a forceful desire. It only shows you have a liking for it, you have just a taste for it. But the taste doesn't become a desire. When the taste becomes a desire, it becomes a conscious pursuit. Your mind will be running after it, or rather that is forcing you to run towards it. When the liking becomes powerful, it forces you to run for it or work for it or seek it. Okay? The desire means seeking it, running it, or a serious interest in it. A serious interest starts with a mild liking, a simple taste for it. So the simple taste itself develops into a desire. Therefore, he says, Sankalpa Prabhavan Kaman. Give up the desires born of Sankalpa. Why call it Sankalpa Prabhava? Born of Sankalpa. It means give up the desires along with Sankalpa. See, the born of Sankalpa only means along with Sankalpa. Sankalpa Prabhavan means born of Sankalpa means along with Sankalpas. See, generally the word Sankalpa has more than one meaning. Generally we take Sankalpa means a decision. A decision is Sankalpa. That a determination is Sankalpa. Okay? You have determined to do something. Maine Sankalp kar liya. In Hindi they call Sankalp kar liya. You have determined to do something or eat something or whatever. So a determination is Sankalpa. But here it is a Vedantic term. It is a Vedantic term, a spiritual psychological term, which means which is behind the desires. So the Sankalpa, if the taste is consciously if you feel the taste, if you become conscious of the taste, means if you recall the taste again and again, if you keep recalling the taste, if you consciously recall the taste gets reinforced, and the time comes, it forcibly becomes a desire. Therefore, he says, when it is at a stage of a taste, there itself nip it in the bud, nip it. That means stop it, erase the very taste, so that before it becomes into a powerful desire, it can be easily handled. Otherwise, once it becomes a desire, it becomes so forceful. You can't hold it with your will. It controls your will. Okay? If the desire becomes strong, it controls your will, and it forces a determination upon you. It imposes a determination upon you. Then ultimately you have to work for it and you have to achieve it, or you have to enjoy it. So this desire becomes forceful. It forcibly makes you to follow it. Then your will also becomes weak. Generally, will is a free. We say will means a freedom. I don't say will is a freedom. Will is a choice. This much only we can say. But sometimes the choice is also forced choice. Choice is not always free. It is a relative. Even choice is a mixture of freedom and force. Okay? Choice is a relative term. Will is a relative term because it gives you, it is no doubt a choice. Will is no doubt a choice, but all choices are not totally made out of freedom. The freedom is also relative freedom, fluctuating freedom of different degrees of freedom. Means the choice should be totally free, but the choice is partly imposed, partly pressurized. Under certain pressure we use the will. So will we always use? We always choose, but the choice is not always free, not completely free. Most of the people have a very limited freedom. You choose. In fact, choose we must, because that is the human nature. That is the jivahood. It is the very nature of jiva to choose. At every moment we keep choosing. All our actions, thoughts, every moment we keep choosing. But the choice is not always free. Choice is controlled by circumstances. Circumstances pressurize us to choose something in thoughts, ideas, feelings, and actions. In all these things we choose every moment, but the choice is pressurized. So how much your choice is free? That means how much the free will is free. Okay? How much your free will is free, that we have to look at it. But the will is generally, for common people we are talking, is never free. At least, why at least? Mostly it is influenced. It is forced by external circumstances and our samskaras, our desires, our cultivated desires, our impulses, instincts, all this. And our education, culture, value system and everything. What is ingrained into your personality, our character. All these samskaras put together go into the formation of our personality, values, thinking, experiences, our reactions, our thoughts, our convictions. All this will go into our makeup of our personality. That personality, when it forms into personality, then it more or less it becomes subconscious. Subconscious means it dictates your will. Your will cannot control it completely. It may try, but even if you try partly, it controls, it dictates our will. Okay? Therefore, the right way is then what to do? The samskaras, the inner character, inner personality, which has gone into our inner mind, which has shaped our inner mind, that forces us, dictates our will. Okay. One is a taste. So the samskaras remain in our subconscious mind. Our cultivated, picked up samskaras remain in our subconscious mind. When they rise into conscious mind, when they come up into conscious mind, they come with a force. Okay? So how they come? When they rise in our conscious mind, as long as they remain hidden in the subconscious mind, they don't do much. But when they rise into the conscious mind, they rise in the form of our inclination, our taste. Where is our inclination? Where is our taste? We have to look at it. Our inner samskaras cannot be known unless they express somewhere in some situation, somewhere. See, it happens like this. It is a matter of our experience that we think that I don't have this desire, I don't have this weakness, I don't have this problem. When we see such a weakness in others, we criticize. Oh, what a shallow fellow. Can't he control this much, these things? Such a pervert fellow, we say. But we also have certain of these features unconsciously, but we would not know them. We would come to know that we too have some of the weaknesses. When they rise in the mind, they express in our conscious mind. As long as it remains unconscious in our mind, unconscious mind, we would not know. When it rises, when it gets expressed, then you come to know, you will be shocked. Even you will be shocked. Shocked means you will be shocked. Shocking means you will feel guilty also. Oh my God, even I too have this samskara. I thought I don't have this. I don't have this at all. But still, how did it exist? How did it exist in my own mind? But in this particular situation, it has come out. Therefore, Shankaracharya says, don't trust your mind so easily, because somewhere, something unconsciously they did remain. Then how long? Yavad jivam tavanna vishrambhaniyam. In the 5th chapter or 6th chapter, he says, Yavad jivam. Throughout life, never trust your subconscious mind, because it contains many our unknown factors. Unknown samskaras, they remain. Never trust your mind. That means never take for granted that, oh, you have conquered a particular desire, that you are free. Never be so loose, slackened, so loose, continuously on your guard. Guard means what? Use your will at every moment use your will against those subconscious samskaras, because the samskara may pop up into the mind, conscious mind, and you see that inclination, a taste for something, inclination for something forces us, dictates our will. It grabs, forces your will, even if there will be a fight between that inclination and your will. Will don't wants to implement it. That inclination is so powerful that it even forces, bends down your will and asks you to toe that line. Therefore, there is a fight between will and that inclinations, the negative inclinations, the bad samskaras, they force you. Then what to do? What to do? Two things are there. See, it's a very difficult thing. People don't know what to do. The will should not be dictated by wrong samskara. So our help is two. One is the good samskara, another is our values and teaching of Shastra and Satsangatya, good ideals, examples, convictions, our Shastra, Satsangatya, and partly within our personality some good samskara also we have. So go by these, okay, good convictions, values, examples, Satsangatya, Shastra Jnana, knowledge of the Shastra, and our own good samskaras. Trust this, be on the side of these things. Then you have to discourage the negative samskaras. Even though they rise in your mind, guard yourself. That means instantly hold them. When that a taste arises, change the taste. Change the taste. Change the taste means what? Erase the samskara of a wrong taste. Erase the wrong taste and change it into, modify it into a better taste, a sattvika taste, or develop a taste for values, good ideas, dharma, bhakti, and all good actions, good experiences. So this is a conscious attempt. You have to use your will, consciously modify your tastes. Again, if you had some taste for a bad thing, when the taste arises in your mind, immediately hold. It is a little painful, but you have to hold it. Then bring the consciously with your will. Take help of the Satsangatya, Dharma, your values, teaching, Shastra. This is where your culture, society, Satsangatya, all this help you. Be in the company of good people, good sadhakas or saints. So that, because that external mind, external situation, your thoughts and books and listening, reading, all that, your earlier determinations, you have made a determination that I will follow these things. Even if a negative samskara arises in my mind, a negative liking pushes me, drags me into other side, with my will I'll hold. I shall go against that wrong samskara. I will not allow it. In the beginning it is painful, because flowing with the old samskara, flowing with the old beaten track, flowing with the old samskara is easy. Instead of using the will against our flowing samskara, against our samskara is difficult, because you have to use the will against our own inclination. The inclination arises, it forces the will to follow it. But you have to check whether the inclination is good. Is it according to Shastra, my values, my convictions, my dharma and sadhana, whatever which I have decided. So these are still value stage alone. They are still in ideals alone. I have not yet implemented. They have not become a part of my personality. They are still ideals only. They are still dharma, convictions, ideals, examples, but still they have not entered into my personality. They have not become spontaneous with me. Then I have to remember these values, examples, Satsangatya. I have to take help of them. Remind myself again and again. Use my will against that wrong inclination. Hold the wrong inclination. Even if the taste is pulling you, dragging you, still hold it. Then gradually apply the mind in a positive direction. Gradually that old inclination, negative taste comes down. The force of negative inclination should come down. Develop a positive inclination, change that negative inclination into positive. You have to go on like this for a number of times. You cultivate a positive inclination of doing good to others, doing good sadhanas, values, implementing all these things. So good experience have, don't go by the negative, the weak experiences, because the taste and experiences, worldly pleasures, ego, all these things are very attractive, but hold them. It is very painful in the beginning, but gradually you keep on gradually implementing, developing a good samskaras, that old samskara get weakened. Okay? So the tastes get weakened. Then a time comes, the taste is so low level that it can't control your will. With your will you can hold it. You can control it, at least tentatively. So keep that negative tastes under control. By simply not expressing the desire is not enough. Behind the desire is a taste, an inclination. That taste or inclination is embedded in my subconscious mind in the form of old taste, old samskaras. Samskaras means old experiences, remained in the form of impressions. The old samskaras have to be erased. And the same mind has to be turned into, the inclination has to be recultivated. You have to put it into a right channel and remove the old grooves, old channel, old samskaras. The inclination has to be redirected. The inclination has to be redirected towards values, satsangatya, and then Bhagavan's qualities. Okay, so all positive sattvika qualities. Mind should develop for sattvika points. Then the old samskaras get erased and they become weaker. At the last they may become totally disappeared. So therefore, this is where he says, while doing meditation, sankalpa prabhavan kaman, the desires along with its sankalpa, along with the taste is a little abstract and deeply embedded. It is not generally visible unless it expresses into the conscious mind. Desire is consciously visible. It is in the conscious mind. And the taste also, if you just set aside the desire, look within, you will see a mild taste also. Behind the desire there is an inclination, there is a taste. Therefore, sankalpa prabhavan kaman, a desire springing from a taste, an inclination, a liking. Okay? The liking taste is behind there. Desire is consciously present, but it is there sitting behind. Pay attention to that. Weaken that inclination. Change it. Modify it. That means sankalpa prabhavan kaman tyaktva. Giving up the desire, along with born of sankalpa means along with sankalpa. See, born of sankalpa means along with sankalpa. Okay, sankalpa means, as I told you, one is a sankalpa, the two meanings. One is determination, another is a taste. The taste or inclination is called sankalpa. So the taste or inclination has got samskaras. So allow the samskara to arise in your conscious mind. Once it comes to your conscious mind, you become aware of it. Oh, I have this samskara. I didn't know. I thought I have conquered my mind. No, it is there somewhere in a subtle way. It is a very subtle one. So once you become conscious of it, then work upon it. Change it, modify it, change it into a positive inclination. By repeatedly thinking of good thoughts, implementing them, acting on them, then the gradually old samskaras go away. New positive sattvika inclination comes. Therefore he says, sankalpa prabhavan kaman tyaktva sarvan kaman asheshataha. Give up all the inclination, all the desires. Don't encourage those tastes. Sankalpa means what? By will, by consciously just think of, means consciously set them aside, leave them aside, or don't think of the worldly things. Because when you think of a situation, a world, either you recall, either three things are there. When you face the world three ways, they trigger the samskaras in your mind. One is the direct perception of the world. Second is the memory of the past. Third is your future thought, imagined. So direct perceived objects, memories and imaginations. These three trigger your samskaras. One is perception, present. Presently you are directly facing objects. Memory means supposing you are away from the world, but still you think of your old experiences. The old experiences also, when you think of them, they trigger your samskara. A taste for them, they come into your conscious mind. Then third is your future imaginations. Sometimes people think of, how nice if I have like this, or how nice it would have been if I have like this. So when I wish I had this thing. So these imaginations also, future imaginations also, wild imaginations also trigger your desires, an inclination for it. A taste for it you have in your subconscious mind, they come into conscious mind. Therefore, control them means what? These three. First, directly perception of the external world, stop. Close your mind and be away from the worldly pleasurable objects. Third is, don't bring your memories. Second is, don't recall anything. Anything means any negative thing. Third is, don't imagine also. Avoid the perception, avoid the memories, avoid the future imagination. Then mind is relaxed. Okay, this is tentatively you are doing now, but if you have been practicing it for months and years together, then the mind develops a much inwardness. Inwardness means what? It likes the sattvic mood, it likes the whatever the sadhana, upasana, bhagavad bhakti, tattva vichara, these things continuously create a sattvic state of mind. So if you develop that sattvic state of mind, mind loves to be in that sattvic state. Okay, this is called, he says, sankalpa prabhavan kaman sarvan styaktva aseshatah manasaivendriya gramam. Then not only the external world you keep away through your sense organs, means don't be in touch with sense organs. Second, through your mind also, don't imagine the old recall the memories and imagine the things. Then both sense organs and mind are detached from the external world. Then shanai ruparamet buddhya dhriti grihitaya. Shanai ruparamet. This is the main part of meditation. Okay, shanai ruparamet. Gradually withdraw. See, this is shanaihi. Sanskrit word means gradually, slowly. And for this Shankaracharya interprets, shanaihi means na sahasa uparamet. He says the word na sahasa, not suddenly. Not suddenly. Why? Why not suddenly? See, because shanaihi gradually means by step. First, external objects you avoid. Then sense organs. Then remove sense, you detach from the sense organs, stay with the mind. Merge your sense organs into mind into the intellect into the collective consciousness, and that again merge into the Atma. How this will be done, we have to discuss in the next class. So this gradually, this is stated in Kathopanishad, and on that there is a commentary in Kathopanishad, and also in Brahma Sutra also the same mantra is quoted in Brahma Sutra Bhashya. There it is explained somewhat better. So our Swamiji is referring to that Brahma Sutra Bhashyas 141. First chapter, 4th pada and first sutra, Anumanika Adhikaranam. So in that first sutra, this mantra is quoted, and there Bhashyakara explains very beautifully. So one point, so how to do that meditation, shanai, we will see in the next class. Before that, one small point, why should we do gradually conquer? gradually dissolve the external perception objects into the sense organ into mind, mind into intellect, intellect into the subject, and subject into the consciousness. Pure Sakshi. That is Atma. Why should we do gradually? Why not suddenly? If you do suddenly, mind doesn't do Nididhyasana, it will enter into Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Nirvikalpa Samadhi means mind becomes blank rather than conquering it. See, Sahasa. I found Sahasa, nobody explained. Nobody explained. Why not Sahasa? See, each sense organ, mind, and etc., all these, each one innerly, each one is inner to the other. Sense organs are inner to the external objects, mind is still inner to the sense organ, intellect is inner to the mind, and like this. Why should we go gradually? Because consciously you have to remove that external form and be in the consciousness. If you consciously alone can be done Nididhyasana. If you don't do gradually, suddenly you do it, all that becomes one thought, thought becomes avyakta. If you do suddenly, it won't be Nididhyasana, because the entire waking state you will be merging into deep sleep. It will be only avyakta, again it will come. This nobody, no Vyakhyanakara, Anandagiri, nobody stated. But I found when you do suddenly, Nididhyasana won't take place. That means Nididhyasana means you have to falsify it in the consciousness. The sense organs and mind are inseparable from consciousness. If you consciously, by watchfully, by awareness, if you don't do it, you will be doing quickly. If you do quickly, it becomes avyakta. It becomes avyakta, it won't be badha. That is the point. That's why Bhagavan Krishna says Shanai Shanai. Shankaracharya says Na Sahasa. Okay. Then still few more points are there. Uparamet means what? What is that nature of Uparamana? We'll discuss in the next class. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Tat Sat.